So, what's up, ladies and gents? It is Friday, 16th of August 2024, and today marks a very special day because today is actually the 47th anniversary of Elvis Presley. So, 47 years ago today, the world lost one of the biggest legends in when it comes to the history of rock and roll, if not the king of rock and roll. Obviously, that day was probably one of the darkest and saddest days in all of for the music history, for the music industry. You think about the fact that that Elvis was so young. It's just crazy to think that he was only in his 40s when he passed away, not when he died. It's just, obviously, the legacy that Elvis has left behind, obviously, it's just huge. Obviously, people still listening to his music even now. Even my dad, he's a huge Elvis fan. He probably knows everything there is to know about Elvis. Obviously, even I'm a bit of a fan of Elvis Presley myself. To be honest, I do like listening to a lot of his songs. There's one thing that certainly rings true, I guess, and that is that there'll never be anybody who had a voice that was as good as Elvis Presley's voice. Because Elvis Presley, and I feel like his voice was just so unique. Like his song, every time I listen to his songs, it just, I get that feeling of how good they were. If I had to go my top 5 Elvis songs, I would go number 5. That's Alright Mama, that would be a number 5. Number 4 would be Heartbreak Hotel. Number 3 would be Viva Las Vegas. Number 2 would be In the Ghetto. And number 1 would be American Trilogy. I do like the song Blue Suede Shoes as well. Return to Sender, that's also a decent song. I remember last year. I think it was last year. I remember it. It was either last year or earlier this year. If I remember correctly, we went to the Elvis thingy we probably do, the Elvis exhibition. Which was at London Bridge, and obviously it was me, my sister, and my dad, and I think we all actually had a pretty decent time. Obviously, going around the Elvis convention and all the different stuff, and I think it was a decent time, really. There's a lot to be admired when it comes to obviously the music industry, and Elvis, was just incredible. I find it, it's so amazing to think 3 years time we'll be celebrating Elvis's 50th anniversary. That's crazy. I can't believe it's been almost 50 years since Elvis Presley passed away. It's great, it's huge. Obviously Lisa Marie sadly passed away last year, sadly died last year, and obviously he's got his grandmother Minnie May up there, his mum Gladys, is up there with him, his father Vernon, obviously his grandson Riley, not Benjamin rather. His grandson Benjamin's up there, Lisa Marie's up there. It's horrible to think, obviously it's horrible, it's so sad, obviously I've heard so many different stories about the day that Elvis died. There are some stories that it was Lisa Marie who found Elvis Presley dead on the bathroom floor, but we all know what the true story is. The true story of the day that Elvis died was that it was his girlfriend at the time, Ginger Alden, who actually found him dead on the bathroom floor, and she was the one that kind of raised the alarm And obviously, it must have been a horrible sight, finding him dead like that. But, um, you know, as I said, there'll never be anyone, who's voice as good as Elvis. Elvis was a one-off. I see, there are a lot of people out there who think that Elvis is still alive, but I think those people really need to accept that Elvis is definitely dead. He's not still alive as much as as much as anyone would love him to still be alive, he's definitely dead. As if he was still alive, he'd be in his 80s now. It's crazy to think like if he was if he was still alive. He'd actually be, in his 80s now, which is funny. As I said, there will never be anyone, that was as talented as Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley's legacy is just amazing. The fact that, there's no one that's as good as him. A lot of these modern sinners you see today, none of them are as good as any of the sinners from back in the day. None of these sinners these days will ever be as good as what Elvis Presley was. People like Taylor Swift, Justin Bieber, Miley Cyrus, all of them. None of them will ever be as good or as or as incredible as Elvis was. I don't think any of them would ever sell out a venue the way that Elvis Presley used to. It's just amazing, like, to think, the life that Elvis lived at Graceland. That mansion itself is beautiful. It's a beautiful mansion. Graceland really is beautiful, and it must be, I wonder what it must be like, actually see, when you're like actually inside the mansion, like, as we know that obviously people can go in there, they do tours at Graceland. Obviously they don't do, tour of like the upper level of Graceland, but you can go in there and you can have a look around and that. But it must be really good, to see what it's really like close up. I know a lot of people say they've seen Elvis's ghost there, but there's a lot of photos online that claim to show Elvis's ghost. I honestly don't think that anyone will ever be as good as what Elvis was. Elvis was just incredible. His voice was just amazing. Like, his voice, for me, it always feels so powerful. Like, when I listen to Elvis, every time I listen to him, his songs hit different. He has such, he has such an amazing voice. That much can really be said. He had such an amazing voice. I don't think there's anybody that would disagree with me on that fact. A lot of people would agree with me and say that Elvis did have a good voice. Do people really think that there'll never be anyone that will ever be better than Elvis? But I don't think there will ever be anyone that will ever be better than Elvis Presley was, and I don't think there'll ever be a singer that is as popular, that will ever be as popular as as an Elvis Presley or Cliff Richard or someone like that. But I like Cliff Richard. I listen to some of his songs, but I don't like him. I don't like Cliff Richard as much as I like Elvis. Like, Elvis Presley's voice was just amazing. And I guess it's fair to say that, he's still, even after all these years, he's still very greatly missed by so many people. It's, I think people are always sad when they think about the fact that Elvis was still quite young, when he passed away. I think he was 42 when he passed away, so he wasn't that old, and it's always sad to think about what could have been. But obviously, it's not hard to see why Elvis died young. When you think about the sort of lifestyle that Elvis was living, it's crazy. Um, I mean, I often wonder what it must have been like for Lisa Marie, because she, obviously she was still quite young when Elvis passed away, so, she was only a little girl when Elvis died, so he never really got to see her grow up. Like, he never got to see her become, the amazing woman that she became. You know, it's so, like, it's heartbreaking, I think the reason that some people still believe Elvis is alive is because they miss him so much. It's like they miss him so much, they want to believe he's still alive. I mean, I'd love to believe that Elvis never really died back on the 16th of August 1977, but I think people really need to accept that Elvis did definitely pass away on that, that day. He definitely died that day, there's no disputing that. I remember seeing a story from somebody who claimed they were later on the same day that Elvis died. They saw Elvis at an airport trying to, buying a ticket buying a ticket to Buenos Aires, which is in obviously Argentina. And they said that he was using a different name. Now, obviously you'd have to be some kind of an idiot to believe that story was even true. Because, do people really think that, people, as I said, people would have to be incredibly naive to believe that story about Elvis being seen at an airport is true. Like, I don't think that, that there was never been any truth to that story. I mean, there was someone who claimed they actually had Marilyn Monroe in their heart after she was, years after she died. The amount of stories I've seen about celebrities still being alive, it baffles me, I mean, yeah, it would be very shocking if these celebrities were still alive, but we all know they're dead. And people need to accept that, but I think in a way, I think it will always be very hard for people to accept that Elvis is dead. I mean, yeah, the man himself might be dead, but his music is always gonna live on. And that's a good thing about it, is that although the man himself is gone, and the man himself is no longer with us and is no longer here today, we will always have that, and we will always have his songs to listen to. We'll always have his films to, we'll always go back and watch his films, and he's left behind so many memories for people to look back on. And the one thing that will always be remembered so fondly about Elvis is the positive, the huge, the huge impact that he had on the music industry as a whole. I mean, Elvis Presley will always be so fondly remembered. And he will always be loved and cherished by so many people. Nobody will ever forget the man and the hit of rock and roll. He will always be fondly remembered by so many people. There's so many people still, there are so many people out there today, in the world today, who love Elvis Presley, and who love his music, and who love his films. I was watching the film the other day, I remember watching the film, not last year, the year before, that they did with Austin Butler. Now, that film was really, really good, and I recommend that if you've not already got that on DVD, go and get it, it really was good. I wasn't a big fan of the Priscilla movie they did. I wasn't a big fan of that one. I think the reason I didn't like that one as much was because the fact that the guy they had playing Elvis in that film didn't really look anything like him. And I feel like that's what kind of ruined the Priscilla movie for me a little bit, was the fact that the guy they had playing Elvis didn't really look anything like him. You know, I mean, at least when obviously with the movie they had with Austin Butler, at least he looked a little bit more like Elvis. But the one they had playing Elvis in the Priscilla movie didn't look at all like. And even my dad said that he didn't look anything like him. You know, when I remember when I went to the exhibition last year with my dad and my sister, I was impressed by some of the things they had on display there. I was amazed. I remember looking at the jumpsuits that he wore, and I was like, wow. I remember looking at his jumpsuits, and I was like picturing Elvis, wearing them on stage. Like, that was the amazing thing about it. Like, when I was looking at those jumpsuits, I was actually picturing Elvis wearing those jumpsuits on stage. Like, it was amazing. That exhibition they've had, I think it's still there at the moment as well. I think it's there till next month. So if you've not already been to the Elvis exhibition, definitely book tickets for that, because it's a really good exhibition. It's small, but it's a really good exhibition. We enjoyed going there. It was just the life that Elvis lived was just incredible. The guy, the man is and always will be, and forever will be, an icon and a legend. I look at Elvis, and it's very easy to see why people adore him so much. It's very easy to see why people love Elvis so much. The guy is a legend and an icon. And as I said, he will never ever be forgotten. He may be gone, but as I said, he may be gone, but he's always going to be here in spirit. He may be gone, but he will never ever be forgotten. He may not be here anymore, but his music will always live on. He will always, he will always shine like a shine. He will always be the brightest star in the sky. He was the biggest star on the stage, and now he's the brightest star in the sky. And I'm very sure that Elvis Presley's up there in heaven having a whale of a time, playing his songs and dancing on the stage, just like he did when he was here, just like he did when he was still alive. I imagine that Elvis Presley is probably doing a lot of the things that he used to do when he was still alive. I don't think just because he's stopped, just because he's gone, he stopped doing the things he loved doing. I think, I imagine he's still doing the things that he loved doing, even now, even in the afterlife. Like, even in heaven, he's still doing the things he loved doing. I imagine, all of those, the amount of celebrities that are up there now, heaven must be a very wonderful place. People like Elvis Presley up there, and Michael Jackson, and, Dame Vera Lynn, and all of those big names that are up there now. But the biggest name out of the lot is by far Elvis Presley. I mean, yeah, it will always be heartbreaking that Elvis passed away too young. He was definitely someone that we lost way too soon. He was definitely taken way before his time. He was taken way too early. And that's the one thing that everyone will always think about. But as I said, Elvis is gone, but he's never forgotten. So here's me wishing Elvis Presley and him of rock and roll a very happy, heavenly 42nd, a very happy heavenly birthday. A very happy heavenly anniversary. We miss you. We love you, Elvis Presley. And God bless the legend, God bless the man, and God bless the king of rock and roll. So I hope you enjoyed that little video of me paying tribute to the man, the legend, the king that is Elvis Presley on today, on what is his 42nd anniversary, on what is the 47th rather, the 47th anniversary. Bloody hell. The 47th anniversary of his death. So yeah, that's me done for another video. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see you for another video very, very soon. Bye bye guys.